Hello and welcome to Nuke Buzz Podcast. Today is October the 26th, 2023, and we're going to cover in this episode the last 24 to 48 hours of nuclear war in the headlines, world news. Let's go with the first article. Russia says it will has rehearsed a massive nuclear strike. This is an article from the BBC News, bbc.com, posted 23 hours ago. Russia has rehearsed its ability to deliver a massive nuclear strike, the Kremlin says. The military exercise involved delivering a response to an enemy nuclear strike, says the Russian defense minister. State TV showed him recounting the rehearsal to President Vladimir Putin. It comes as Russia's parliament backed the withdrawal of Moscow's ratification of a global treaty that bans all physical testing of nuclear warheads. So I'm guessing this means we may be seeing some nuclear warhead tests by Russia. And the article goes on to say Russia and the United States conduct regular nuclear readiness simulations, and Moscow has traditionally held its own towards the end of October. The exercises this year involved, and it quotes, delivering a massive nuclear strike by strategic offensive forces in response to an enemy nuclear strike, unquote, says the defense minister to the Russian president. As a Kremlin statement said that practical launches of ballistic and cruise missiles had taken place. A Yars intercontinental ballistic missile was fired from a test site in Russia's Far East, and another missile was fired from a nuclear-powered submarine in the Barents Sea, the statement said. The Yars this is separate from the article. The Yars intercontinental ballistic missile is it's spelled Y-A-R-S, so it's one of their missiles, so it's called the Yars, or that's the name of it. All right, back to the article. Earlier this month, Mr. Putin said Russia had held a final successful test of a nuclear-powered cruise missile. The experimental weapon, first announced in 2018, was hailed as having a potentially unlimited range, but President Putin's account has not been independently confirmed. The latest test will be seen as a display of force which coincides with Moscow de-ratifying an international nuclear test ban treaty. Parliament completed the passage of a law that withdraws Russia's ratification of the treaty on Wednesday. So I remember them talking about this, was it last week or the week before? So they just completed it this week. All right, and back to the article. Mr. Putin called upon ministers to back the change to reflect the position of the United States, which signed but never ratified the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. So they're just going to make it even with what we're doing, I guess, what the U.S. is doing. So the CTBT, Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, agreed in 1996, bans any nuclear weapon test explosion or any other nuclear explosion anywhere in the world. Russia waged a full-scale invasion in Ukraine in February of last year, raising concerns over nuclear war. In June of this year, Russia stationed a first batch of tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. Mr. Putin told a forum they would only be used if Russia's territory or state was threatened. And then the article ends by saying the U.S. government says there is no indication the Kremlin plans to use nuclear weapons to attack Ukraine. All right, over to the next article. This article is by the OWP.org, the Organization for World Peace, what the OWP stands for. And the headline of the article, Is transfer of Russian nuclear warheads to Belarus underway, confirms Polish president. This article was posted October 25th, 2023. The president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, has confirmed that a Russian plan to deploy tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus is in progress. Under this plan, Belarus, which borders Russia to the east and Poland to the west, will host short-range nuclear weapons that remain under Russia's control. Indeed, this process is taking place. We are seeing that, said President Duda at a press conference on August 22nd in 2023. He added that the deployment is changing the architecture of security in our part of Europe. And the article goes on to say, although Russian President Vladimir Putin and Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko announced the project in March and declared in June that it had already begun, President Duda's comments marked the first corroboration of these claims by a third party. So they're just verifying it. All right, back to the article. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg described the proposal as reckless and dangerous, quote, unquote. In June, but denied having observed any changes in Russia's nuclear posture. Analysts had previously expressed doubt that any nuclear weapons would actually be moved, so they were doubting it, and this article is just verifying that it's true by a third party, which is Poland. So, speaking to Times Radio in June, Director of Research at the Council on Geostrategy, James Rogers, said there is some possibility that this plan to station nuclear weapons in Belarus could only be a bluff. So this article again verifying that it's not a bluff. Back to the article. The greatest danger posed by Russian nuclear weapons in Belarus is that they will spur escalation by NATO. Russia already has nuclear weapons stationed in Kaliningrad, which are capable of striking Poland and other NATO member states in Eastern Europe. So positioning short-range weapons in Belarus does not extend the range of Russia's nuclear arsenal. The real threat is that the placement of Russian nuclear warheads in NATO's doorstep will prompt a response in kind. There is already evidence that the Russian gambit has spooked Poland. After details of the plan emerged in July, the Polish Prime Minister announced his intention to join the NATO nuclear sharing program. This would involve the relocation of nuclear weapons from one of the nuclear-armed states in NATO, the US, the UK, or France, to Poland. Such a move would almost certainly provoke further belligerence from Russia and Belarus, says the article. This episode proves that Western analysts who assume President Putin is bluffing about his readiness for nuclear conflict to do so at their own peril. The use of nuclear weapons remains a strategically unwise option, but that may change as the war in Ukraine grinds on and Russia becomes more desperate for decisive victories, states the article. President Putin stands to lose everything if his special military operations is a failure, so he may risk everything to salvage it. And that ends the article. All right, thanks for tuning in to the first episode of the Nuke Buzz podcast. I will be updating the podcast from day to day with new information, new headlines from around the world.